A temporary truce in the fighting in the Gaza Strip is set to start any minute now, which is the first batch of Israeli hostages will be handed over at 4 p.m. local time, which will be 7:30 p.m. Indian time. 13 people will be freed initially, all women and children from the same families. In 4 days, 50 hostages will be released from Israel, and 3 jailed Palestinian terror convicts would be freed in exchange for every Israeli hostage, totaling 250. Israel and Hamas, which have been at war since the 7th of last month, had announced a deal on Wednesday allowing at least 50 hostages and scores of Palestinian prisoners to be freed during that 4-day truce. The deal, which was mediated by Qatar and the United States, will include only women and children. The deal, facilitated by Qatar, Egypt and the United States, is to take effect in stages that can be extended and broadened. It is also intended to provide aid to Gaza's 2.4 million residents, and the agreement follows weeks of war in the Gaza Strip after Hamas militants broke through the militarized Gaza border on the 7th of October. Let's just go across to Kadamni to get more details on this. Kadamni, earlier the hostages were to be released after a 24-hour waiting period from the announcement that was made on Wednesday. What caused the delay by another 24 hours?
Well, first of all, it is 10:32 by our clock and 7 a.m. by Israeli time. So the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel starts now. That was what the deal was. It stays in place for 4 days, and this is a 4-day pause in almost 7 weeks conflict between Hamas and Israel. Now, in these 4 days, what will happen? No drones will be flying over, Israeli drones will be flying over Gaza. There will be no arrests, there will be no firing, there will be no air raids, and it will be followed, the ceasefire will be followed by both the parties. This ceasefire has been negotiated by Egypt and Qatar and the United States. Now, it took 7 weeks in coming, and in these 7 weeks, we have seen what has happened in Gaza after the initial attack of Hamas in Israel, where 1,300 Israeli civilians lost their lives and 240 were kidnapped. We have seen what has happened in Gaza, but it has taken almost 7 weeks for this negotiation to come to a conclusion and this deal to be struck. So now when this happens, it is not as if the forces will move backwards, but they will be, Israel has said, the senior officials of Israel have said that they will be stationed because at their position, because they do not trust each other, and that is on the both the sides. They do not trust each other, and once the deal is done, once the hostages and the prisoners are exchanged, only then it will be accepted that it has actually happened. So there is distrust on both the sides. Now, what is in it for both the sides? For Israel, what is most important? The priority is getting hostages. Now, we have seen in 7 weeks, even though a large part of Gaza has been flattened by aerial strike, the Israeli forces, ground forces, troops are inside Gaza. They have discovered tunnels even under Al-Shifa hospital and many other civilian houses. But where are the hostages? They have not been able to locate the hostages. They have recovered 1 or 2 bodies of hostages, but they have not recovered the hostages. They have still no idea where the hostages are. The intelligence on that account has actually failed. So pressure is mounting at home to get the hostages back. There have been protests, there have been rallies, and the experts say Israel will also get some time to reorganize and recalibrate their response to what has been happening, because Benjamin Netanyahu has clearly said this is a pause to bring the hostages home, but the war is not over. Now, what is in it for Hamas and Gaza? Gaza is in a desperate situation. Almost 14,000 people have been killed, and most of them are civilians. It is said that almost 6,000 are children. There is no fuel, there is a food shortage, there are fights for water. We have seen the pictures coming out from there. So what happens now? There will be trucks which will be coming in. This is the part of the deal. These trucks will be carrying humanitarian aid. There would be around 1,300 tons of food, medical aid, and also something which Israel has been refusing to letting into Gaza, that is fuel. So now these will be getting into Gaza, and the expectation is that there would be medical medical aid so that the people who are wounded, people who are in a dire state, they would be getting some better medical aid. There would be people who would be moving out. So this is how both of them will handle this. And Hamas, it is believed that Hamas would also want to strengthen their position. The fighting has not stopped. They have been fighting. It has not stopped, but they will also get some time to reinforce their supplies, be it fuel or other weapons. This is believed, but because of the pressure of getting the hostages home, this is something which Israel has had to accept. It is also being said that it is quite it's a deal which is better because there are around 150 Palestinian prisoners who are set to be released, whereas there are 50 of Israeli hostages who are to be released. The release of hostages will start today 4 p.m. Israeli time, that is 7 p.m. Indian 7:30 p.m. Indian time. So the first batch would be around 13 hostages, Israeli hostages. It is believed that most of them would be children. There are around 39 children who are hostages in Gaza, and it is also said that families will be kept together. The preparations have been made for receiving these hostages. The hostages will be handed over to Red Cross. Red Cross will be bringing them to Rafah border. From there, IDF will be taking them to Israel, and then they would be taken for medical evaluation. All the preparations have been made. So over next 4 days, starting today 4 p.m. Israeli time, 50 Israeli hostages out of 239 believed to be alive would be handed over to Israel.